Welcome back to the Home Story Cup 9 North America Qualifiers. Boys and girls, this is a ZVT best of 3 we're about to hop into. We'll leave betting open until the end of the first game, at which point we'll close the bet so you guys can cross your fingers that your favorite player wins. However, spawning down here in the lower left corner of the map, he's pink, he's Terran, he comes from IVD Gaming. And if you follow him on Twitter, he likes to talk about balance a lot. It is intense. But his opponent over to the top right. He's light blue, he's Zerg from Complexity Sound Blaster, hendralisk, who now has a subscription button on Twitch TV and for some reason made a rooster his first emote. I know there's a couple of you lurkers in chat who have got that subscription. I don't know what's up with a rooster, but someone wants to explain it to me. Before we go too far into this, I think a lot of you guys are probably going to be favoring hendralisk in this matchup. Not only is he Zerg, he's really good, and he's had great results in recent days. Intense, you haven't heard a lot of, but I remember casting this guy in the Zotac Cup, and he took down a revival out of nowhere, and I think a lot of people were like, wow, who the hell's Intense? And at the time, for me, even though I was already talking to him a little bit on Twitter, I was kind of like, yeah, who the hell's Intense? Taking down revival like he's nothing at all. So this is not a bad player by any means. However, this is not a best of 1, and this is a best of 3, and he's going to have to play 2 solid games back to back if he wants an easy win versus hendralisk. Not a lot easier said than done. But on Frost with cross spawns, I think hendralisk is going to be pretty content with this. One of the things for the way cross spawns ends up influencing this is less about the fact that it's cross spawns and more about the fact that it's not horizontal spawns. The worst way to drop, or to spawn, of course, is horizontal from a Terran player, but it doesn't really, I think, influence the matchup that much anymore. Once upon a time it really did, but Zerg players have become so comfortable taking this middle base, taking hidden bases, and even extended bases that I think the threat of this scumbag cliff, while still present, isn't nearly as bad as it once was. Now, one of the questions on the tip of my mind is, does Intense actually go for 2 Reapers or 3? I say this because 2 Reapers seems to be a lot more common in North America, and 3 has become a lot bigger deal in combination Korean players as well as Europeans. Not that the North American server is particularly behind, but it comes down a lot to preference. Like, just because you see some players going for 3 Reapers doesn't mean like it's the new thing and it's the only good thing to do, and if you don't go 3 Reapers, you're a baddie. But it does mean if you go for 2 Reapers, you get your Hellions out a little bit quicker. A Banshee can follow up a little bit sooner. But 3 Reapers at the same time, while being strong, can sometimes be absolutely useless. The idea behind getting that 3rd Reaper is like you need to get a Queen kill, a couple drone kills. You delay your gas through 50 by the 3rd Reaper. If you don't do anything with it, it ends up being a completely waste, as we've all seen Reapers kind of clock out. Even if you pair them up with Hellions, come the 5-6 minute mark, you're just kind of, these are useless. They're dead supply. Alright, so he gets here before the lings are out. Little unfortunate that hendralisk chose not to make those first 6 lings at home, but that's okay. There we go, the first 4 do dart up now. But yeah, typically the reason you see the magic number being 6 guys is because you try and send 2 across the map. That being said, Intense did intentionally leave his 2nd Reaper at home expecting those lings, to get back on point about it. You can't really kill a queen with 1 Reaper. You can eventually if hendralisk were to never support it with a 2nd queen or any Zerglings, but it would take about 5 trips. It's not something that's done too easily. Intense, by the way, guys, 3rd Commander coming up in base. He's playing pretty safe at home, and he's still only on 1 gas, so we're not going to see Banshees coming out anytime soon. He probably should throw down that starport, but I imagine a lot of his minerals at the moment, having taken that 3rd Commander, are going to go more towards Hellions and less towards a Banshee. If you get us for Banshees, it's going to be really late, and I actually won't like that at all. If you end up going Banshees early on, the big advantage it has is there's usually not Spore Crawlers yet, combined with the fact that the Queen count is somewhat low. But if you go for like the 10-minute Banshee, you're just asking for trouble. You're not going to get drone kills, you're not going to get Queen kills. So coming back home, just going to get ready for the defense. One thing he doesn't have to worry about, though, is while that Reaper did get in the base, it didn't really scout much of the main. So he doesn't know if a Roach Warren was slammed down, if hendralisk was going to go for some sort of 2-base all-in, Bailings and Roaches, if you will. But he instead goes for that 3rd. So just taking that up slowly but surely. Actually, did he see the Archer in the retreat? No, he didn't even see this. So unfortunately, Intense is playing a little blind at the moment. But blind's okay, as long as you react accordingly. Still droning up like crazy, though. He's got to consider that there are Hellions on the way, and I don't know. I trust in hendralisk. I have faith in the Henry, but if he's going to play without more than 4 Zerglings, he's not going to have a good time dealing with Hellions. Alright, so third base to the north, scouted and not received. Does catch the third base down here now. There's already queens here. It'd be a very awkward fight these forced to take. I really wish you would have seen that creep tumor, actually. That one creep tumor would have been a big pickoff, because that's going to be able to spread creep like crazy. Queens, of course, are dedicated to creep tumors, but the more you pick off, the more he has to spend. But the Roach Horn's coming up. And if this was, like, not just Hellions, would say Blue Flame behind it. It's not. But if it was, then he'd have the Roaches out to deal with it. And this wouldn't be the danger that sometimes it can present itself to be. But the drones are being transferred over to the third. This does kind of open up a target, but with these Lings and Queens guarding, he should be okay. Although he does engage without the Queens, and those Zerglings get absolutely massacred. Hendralisk forced to pull the drones away for a moment. Doesn't quite know if Intense is going to dive for it. As a Terran player, that's always a hard decision to make. It's really tempting to see like, oh look, a big open drone line with nothing to defend it. Let's take our Hellions in. But these are a lot of your map control. Even with the Roaches to push them back, the idea is you want them present on the map. Pardon me. If for nothing else other than just scouting. But third base was established while this is going on. Always a bit of a risky move, because you know your opponent's going to focus on your natural, but if you recognize that there's the third, you can lift it up, you'll lose the SCVs. Oh, I see we got some people in chat discussing the old school Reapers. I think the old school Reapers are kind of bad, honestly. They never got utilized even though they had a lot of damage. And it made them really cheesy units, so they tried to change them in the beta. And they made them a little bit better, but not a whole lot. In fact, they made them way too good, so they had to re-nerf them. But yeah, I do miss the Reaper sometimes with the G8 cluster charge or whatever it's called. The one that would let them do the grenades to the buildings was always cool. You'd make like 20, cheese out of Protoss players, say so long to your pylons, 2 blasts, kablooey. At any rate, for the time being, Intense's defense doesn't look too bad. I do like that he lifted this and brought his SCVs back. He didn't want to risk losing anything. But he's got stim completing. Medevacs are on the way out. Even if there are banelings to associate with this, he's got enough forces to fight this off. As long as he doesn't clump, of course. You know, just gonna move the Marines forward. Good luck, have fun. But his upgrades are on the way, and Hendralisks are gonna beat him to 2-2 as long as they stay par for the course. This is the regular way Zerg versus Terran ends up playing out, though. For the Terran player, you have to kind of give up your upgrades in the favor of the... Or, well, I shouldn't say give up your upgrades. You forfeit your 1-1 for a little bit of time because you need to get stim out quicker. Still picking off just the odd lane or two for the time being. He is going to re-land that third and start trying to get a bunker down here. This is kind of a cute move, but it's one that doesn't usually pay off till later on. Hendralisk is a player who I've seen do baneling run-bys in the past, but it's not really his MO. You don't really see him constantly sneaking off. Like in context, if you guys have ever seen Acer Bly, oftentimes he'll sneak off, say, 8 Zerglings to the south, wait for like 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes later strike with 8 banelings that have been morphed in, but that's not really Hendralisk's style of play. Now, I do like his creep spread that he's got going on right now. It's not quite as crazy as you would expect it to be, but coming up on the 12-minute mark, it's not looking too shabby at all. Spire's going to eventually be paired with this. It's a little bold to put on the front lines like this, but you guys got to consider a lot of the times when Terran players are attacking, if they've managed to actually attack from the third up to this point, you've probably already lost anyways, if you've given up that much ground. On top of this, drops usually go off in the main and the natural, and that makes the Spire very vulnerable. So having it in the middle of the map looks a little bit wonky, but this is actually kind of the path least traveled, so to speak. Centrifugal Hooks is so close to finishing, but he doesn't quite have that speed yet for the banelings. So even though he does have a pretty nice speed bonus on creep, Hendralisk's just waiting for a safe opportunity to engage. One medevac gonna try and drop this drone line. Alright, let's see how much it gets done. I probably have to pick up though. One Marine goes down, but as the Mutalisks come out, that's what stops this from really being a threat. That's what stops us from doing tons and tons of unstoppable amounts of damage. But he'll unload, he'll heal up, he'll still try and force a fight over here on the left side of the map. For Intense, it's always dangerous fighting on creep. It's never... If you can find a good positional engagement, on creep, off of creep, doesn't matter, take the advantage. But on creep decreases the chance you find that good spot to fight. A couple of Mutalisks are going to be trying to be focused down, lifts up in the medevac, but that's unfortunately going to cost him, as of course the Mutalisks move a little bit faster. If he can get over this cliff and start unloading Marines, that changes and he may be able to save this drop, but he's not doing that because he's busy in the top left focusing on these forces. In fact, actually does manage to get an unload off and will save the drop. How does he have vision up here? Oh, creep tumor. Creep tumor on that ramp. Perfect spot. So you can see the thing sitting up here on the top of the cliff. This baneling's ready to roll in. These Marines clump up by accident. He had a really good spread, past tense. but unfortunately the banelings are just a little too much. Trying to retreat fully and entirely from this, not picking up in these medevacs. Is that a mistake? I feel like that's a mistake. They can't boost again for another like 3 seconds, but that's okay. Cooldown's about to come off. But Intense, you know what? He didn't have a lot of production behind this. We're so focused on the army, and I think he was too. He's now trying to get those additional Raxes up. It's usually 8 or 10 in the main right now, not the extra 3 that are coming down outside. You know, pumping 13 Marines at a time, that's your magical, I guess, sweet spot when it comes to Terran. You just want to have these units constantly routed across the map to deal with the banelings that you're inevitably going to have to trade out with. The Roaches still being involved here are kind of cute, because they're actually going to work to soak a lot of hits very nicely, but the Woodmines are not down, and Intense is not ready for this fight. Banelings come in, and he backs away a second too late. The Woodmines do try and bro, and a big clump of Banelings and Woodmines go off right there. He's unloading in the main. He's going to try and hold on to this. More Banelings are just rolling in, though, and quite frankly, could and should go to the mineral line. Wipe out these SCVs, going to do precisely that. Bust through the bunkers at the top of the ramp. There are a couple of Widowmines down. Looks like he will hold this fight. He gets a drop off while this is happening. He will take out a Spine Crawler, but unfortunately the drones were pulled. So not a lot of workers killed while this is going on, although he has managed to constantly chip away and pick off a couple. This was the drop that should not have lived from earlier on, if you guys recall. Picks up in the medevac. Unfortunately, it's the medevac with no HP. And, good hold out of Intense. He even manages to play a little bit of pressure behind this, but Hendralisk not phased in the slightest. He may have lost a lot of his Banelings, but he's still got a lot of Roaches and Zerglings to play with. Both players are on 2-2, and Intense is on his way to 3-3. As long as he doesn't over-dedicate and take a big army loss, he'll be okay moving into the late game. The problem is being exposed in the middle of the map like this, the last thing we're seeing out of this guy are good spreads. And that means he's going to have to fight a little awkwardly coming into these Mutalisks, coming into the Banelings. Where are those Woodmines? He's got a couple down still, but not a lot left behind this. And the Medevacs are holding really strong with the bio that's just dealing with Zerglings and Roaches, but a couple Banelings are still in the mix, looking to get their way in here, on top of the fact that there's a ton of Mutalisks still in play, but spreads out just a little bit and stims forward once again. The Mutalisks are all that are really here to be a big, scary threat. The Roaches are not a big deal, and even the Banelings are not that numerous. In fact, a couple good Widowmine hits are about to go off on everything, and the Mutalisks almost get taken out. One more Widowmine hit would have sealed the deal, but the Marines will do the damage as well. Hendralisk perhaps over-dedicating to this attack. He's got a lot of presence here on the front lines, but he doesn't have the killing power. He doesn't have that culling blade to finish Intense off. In fact, Intense is making a planetary fortress while this is going on. I don't even know how he's managed to squeeze that out, but one of the big things too, while this has been going on, Intense has lost a lot of medevacs. If you've got medevacs, you can heal through a lot of this damage. Unfortunately, he bled a lot of these out through awkward drops and Mutalisks here in the middle of the map. Widowmine is once again going to try and burrow, and it doesn't get too many hits off, but it soaks a Widowmine, or it soaks a Banling or two. Still, the Mutalisk looking to come in here strong is really, really scary to consider. It's only a couple Banelings left, but that's all he really needs to crush these Marines. If Intense doesn't split, alright, goes off on the deepest instead. The Marines left can deal with the Mutalisks. This is always a bit of a problem for a Zerg player. You've got a lot of Mutalisks, but you don't have the power to kill Marines. Snipes off another medevac on the retreat, though, and with 23 Marines still alive, he will hold once again. But that being said, his army supply still in the gutter. Medevacs have been constantly bleeding out, and 3-3 is still only just on the way. Unfortunately, not done yet. That fight would have gone so much more heavily in his favor had it been done. But as he moves further in the game, he will start to gain that advantage. Hendralisk finding himself in that classic Zerg cliche of being stuck on layer tech. This has kind of been done intentionally, though, because he's been trying to end the game with these pushes, but Intense has just been holding really, really well. But 3-3 is so close to finishing. Not going to be available for this fight by the looks of it. The Planetary Fortress is going to soak up a lot of these hits. He focuses down some of the Banelings. Unfortunately, though, not going to be enough. Marines running to the top of the hill. Can these Widowmines save the day? He splits! He splits! Are they good enough, though? The Banelings still kill a lot of the Marines. And the Mutalisk count might just be a little too numerous. Intense still has a lot of minerals in the bank for this. He's pumping out Marines as hard as he can. Or not a lot of minerals left in the bank, I should say. He's going to try and burrow these Widowmines, but even if they burrow, can they get the hits off of these Mutalisks? Oh, they're going to go off! No, GG is going to be called. Intense. I thought he was going to get the Mutalisk, the miracle hits. But GG is called, and Hendralisk will take game number 1 in this best of 3.